All right, mixtape. So if I had a bass guitar, I would slap it to the tune of the Seinfeld theme song, because usually this is our power ranking episode, and there's really kind of no power rankings to go over because teams haven't been playing.
I know.
So this is our Seinfeld episode.
It's the show about nothing. What's the deal with COVID?
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Seinfeld the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I am Chris Maselli from Locked On Avalanche. He is Adam Denker from Locked On Lightning. And if you're listening on or watching on YouTube, like I said, this is normally where we do our power rankings, but there's really no power rankings to go around. Nothing really has changed all that much. I mean, I know teams were still playing, but is it really fair to do a power ranking when, those teams, a lot of teams were decimated? It just didn't seem right to do a power ranking and have teams leapfrog other teams that were not playing or had players that were benched. It just didn't seem right.
No, I think we could both agree, and our listeners can, that it's just the lopsided in some of the games played alone tells you that, we can't rush to judgment, even though I'm pretty sure if we had the rankings this week, the Panthers would be somehow number one.
Even despite did they finish on the losing streak? Did they finish with a win at least, or no?
They lost their last three going into the, I guess,
3. I thought it was 4.
Are we calling it a pause? Is this a pause, or is an extended break? What's the appropriate terminology that we should be using?
I mean, what's the league calling it? Are they just calling it a pause? Or I hear both. I've
heard extended Christmas break.
Okay. So that's a creative play on words. So we're just taking the Christmas break and just saying, we're basically telling the students, like, oh, we're going to give you an extra couple days of your Christmas vacation, more or less.
Finals are canceled, so go home.
Yeah. What do you think of it overall, man? And I don't want to get into too much, because we will, what we're going to do today? We will talk about where we have come with the power rankings, how they kind of started, how they've morphed into what they are right now. And then we will discuss who could benefit from this pause/break, and who it could hurt.
I think. I think that we can't talk about the power rankings at this point without taking the break into consideration, because if you look at some of the teams going into the Christmas break, the extended Christmas break, this is probably one of the best things for some teams. I know for sure my Lightning team, even though they just finished with the most points in the league right now in the President's Trophy hot seat, as we're talking right now.
Okay, I'll grant you that.
But if you still look at our roster, we still have a lot of players out. Braden Point's still out. Kucherov is still going to be out for some period of time. So at least I could say from firsthand experience, I know that, a team definitely like the Lightning, regardless of where they are going to need this. I think some other teams just needed to get their act together. I mean, we've been very critical of the Islanders over the last couple of weeks, and we still don't expect them to get their act together when they come back. But you never know. Maybe an extended couple of days off could do them some good. They might not make the playoffs, but they might finish close.
I mean, everybody can use this to get healthy. What I mean? That's all 32 teams can use it to get some players back in the roster. Definitely the Islanders. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just a reset for a team like them. And forget about the playoffs. Just start playing better. Flat out start playing better and use it as a launch pad for next season. Or if for some miracle you string together an incredible run, you can still, I just don't see it happen. We were talking about it last week. I've jumped off the ship, but it doesn't mean the season is a complete failure if you can somehow regroup and have something to hang your hat on by the end of the year and kind of have this as, hey, remember what we did when the league went on a brief pause and we came back from it.
Yeah.
Like that's what you can use as motivation going into next season. And I think that's true for a number of teams, but definitely from top to bottom, you're using it to get healthy. Now, teams like, like even my Avalanche did not start off well. I think this hurts them. I think they were starting to play a lot better. And, it took them a little while to get into the flow of a season. Sometimes teams need to do that. And they've been on when this is all said and done, they've been on a break tied for the longest time of being on a break.
Yeah.
So it's not good for them. It's almost like they're rebooting their season. And is that going to have an effect on them? Is it going to be a duplicate of what happened to them in the beginning of the season? I personally hope not. But that's the struggle that some teams like them might run into. It's like you're rebooting your season all over again. Is it going to take you? It shouldn't take you as long. I mean, for the Avs, it took 2 months to get into the flow of a season. It shouldn't take that long. But even if it takes a week, like now we're getting into January, so every game is really meaningful right now. And I think do you feel like there's any teams like Colorado who are basically kind of rebooting their season all over again, and that might be detrimental to even for a week or two to kind of get back into the flow that they had when we were 3 months into the season?
I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually the one team that I had in mind where this pause actually might hurt them. It's actually two teams, and they happen to be in the same division as Colorado Avalanche, and that's Minnesota and Nashville. Nashville was on a 7-game win streak before everything got shut down. And they're a team of momentum. So who knows what could happen? They could come out and easily lose 7 coming out when we come back from the New Year. So it's a team, especially like Minnesota, who, they've been having a fantastic season. And really, I think a team that a lot of us didn't expect to play this well. So I think really, I mean, who knows what might happen, especially with this division. But the other teams that I think this could hurt, especially like the New York Rangers, very young, a team that needs to play every night. And now you have almost 2 weeks off. I could see the Rangers possibly, kind of hitting a little bump in the road when they come back as well. Is there any other teams that you're looking at other than obviously your Avalanche that you see that this might potentially make them turn to 180 as the season starts to ramp up again?
You mean like to go that is detrimental to them? Like,
oh yeah,
kind of like
absolutely
go backwards.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see this for my Lightning. I think you made it very. I was trying not to talk about this, but you made it very real for me when you talked about your Avalanche. This could hurt them, especially with the Lightning too. So,
I think the teams that you definitely hit on the Wild. I mean, you have to look at the teams that were kind of like on. You have to look at it both ways. Teams are on a losing streak and teams are on a winning streak. And those were two teams, like Minnesota's on a 4-game losing streak. So they probably view it as like, okay, this is good. Like we just give us we can stop the bleeding by just like everybody stands back. And for Nashville and even for Pittsburgh had 7 in a row. I think those teams are kind of in the same boat where it's like, no, we want to keep the momentum going. And now all that momentum is gone.
Yeah.
It doesn't, when you come back, it doesn't matter that you're on a 7-game losing streak because you've had all that time off. And is it going to take you some time to get back into the flow of things? And I think for teams like Nashville and definitely Pittsburgh, I'm seeing who else is on like a extended winning or losing streak. Oh,
Vancouver.
This is a team. Yes. Let's hear from Stat Hero and then let's talk about Vancouver. Very interesting team. All right. First, Stat Hero. No one plays daily fantasy sports to lose. Winning feels so much better, but traditional fantasy sports are a long-term losing proposition because you never know who or what you're up against. Stat Hero is the first of its kind daily fantasy sports platform where it's you versus the house in a head-to-head fantasy matchup, and it's winner take all. Here's the crazy part. Stat Hero shows you their lineup before you play, and you handpick the team you want to face them one-on-one. This is never before seen innovation of a fantasy sports and sports betting hybrid that has Stat Hero players clocking odds that are over 4 times better. Why? Because you don't have to compete against thousands of experts or unknowns. Stat Hero puts you in control of your fate. And with Stat Hero, you control the stakes. You decide how much you're going to play for, and Stat Hero has no choice but to take it because they are daring you to beat them. Stat Hero is head-to-head, and it's what daily fantasy sports should be, one-on-one. So sign up for free right now at stathero.com/hockey and use the promo code hockey for a 100% deposit match. Once again, that is stathero.com/hockey and the promo code is hockey and you get a 100% match. One more time, stathero.com/hockey, promo code hockey. So one of the more interesting teams that was starting to improve, you got the new hire in Brucey. And the Vancouver, and I think it was undefeated, right? 6-0. And that is a team that could go either way. I am betting on them continuing that. And here's why, is because he hasn't been able to really sit down with this team and kind of spell out what he wants for them. He just jumped in and immediately they started playing better. That's what the Flyers were hoping to get, when they let go of Alain Vigneault. And I mean, they put in Mike Yeo, who was on the coaching staff. So it's not really that much of a change for them.
Yeah.
For the Canucks, they bring in a brand new guy, a guy everybody knows around the league. You know what's expected of him, but he hasn't had a chance to really connect with these players on a personal level. Now they can do that. If they're winning 6 in a row with him just walking through the door, imagine what they can do when he gets this time off with them and can connect with them on a personal level and say, there's no pressure on us. We're at the bottom of the league still. Nobody's expecting us to do anything, but that doesn't mean we just roll over and die. Clearly you guys have proven that for me because we've won 6 in a row since I came in. Let's continue that. And this is how we're going to do it. I think Vancouver, I'm not saying Vancouver is this dangerous team all of a sudden, but they were getting crushed, absolutely crushed. Their power play was atrocious. Their penalty kill was even worse. I think you're going to see stuff like that improve. And how I was saying, with the Islanders, like, you want to finish the season and look back and say, like, this was our turning point in the season. Yeah, maybe we didn't make the playoffs, but there was improvement. I think that's exactly what you're going to get. And you're getting it already with Vancouver. And they can just keep playing off that and keep using that as positive influence and momentum, carry that into the off season, and they'll be a completely different team next year. I can see that happening with Vancouver.
Well, this is kind of relates to what happened with Winnipeg earlier this week with Paul Maurice resigning, saying that he thinks that the team needed a new voice. And oftentimes we've spoken about it. Teams sometimes just get get content with who's barking out the orders. So, I mean, you saw it right away. What the effect he had on this team. They beat Boston. They beat Winnipeg, who still, regardless of what you think of them this year, still a good team. Carolina, Columbus, who we've been very high on this show. But yeah, Vancouver is one of those teams where maybe that's all it needed. I mean, I think we were both very high on them to start the season. I think I even projected them to be in the Western Conference Finals. I just think
remember.
I think if it wasn't, it was pretty darn close to the Western Conference Finals. Yeah. But yeah, this team is fantastic. I just think that they have a good roster, and you add in a coach who has had tons of years of experience, and the city already loves him. The Bruce There It Is chance, which I am 100% for. I don't care if he doesn't like them. Too bad. Deal with it. But yeah, this is a team that really has not been playing up to par all season long, and now that you have a coach who's starting to turn things around, and I agree, especially with what you said, where now he has time to sit down with these guys. Now he has times to really implement things that he didn't get a chance to, because he got hired on the 5th and they played the next night against the Kings. So there wasn't really much of a lay down period from the time he got brought in. So this is going to be interesting to see what kind of team comes out of the break, because I think that they have a prime chance as any team in the NHL right now to set themselves up for, I guess we could call it at this point, a miracle season. Because I think from where they are right now to where they could potentially we would have to call it a miracle season, right?
I mean, they were horrible.
Yeah.
They were god awful. I mean, they're at 30 points right now. They are 6 points out of the wild card spot, which both wild cards have 36 points. One of them is the Avalanche. The Avs do have 4 games in hand on Vancouver. And the other team is Edmonton, who has 2 games in hand against Vancouver. And Edmonton is a team that, is kind of in free fall. They have, well, let's see, what do they've won 2 in a row, but they are just not playing well. That is a team you have to watch. They started off the year hot in our power rankings. I think they made it up as far as number 3.
Yeah.
When Florida and Carolina were, flip flopping every other week, Edmonton kind of stood pat at 3. They've been dropping the past few weeks, but that is a team. Could they use this as look, guys, we know that we can play. Look how we started the season. Do you think Edmonton is that team that uses this for a positive to kind of just take a break, take a breath, stand back and say, really dig into what is all of a sudden not working for this team? I know a lot of it is goaltending, and I don't know. They have to address that. And maybe you can't fix anything until you address the goaltending situation. But Edmonton's another team I'm interested to see how they come out of this. Do they come out of it as the team that started the season, or do they come out of it the team that we've seen in the last month that continues to struggle?
I just think Edmonton, I think this has been the case with this team for the last couple of years, and that is they need to surround Draisaitl and McDavid with a better cast of players who could maybe alleviate the burden that these 2 guys have on any given night. And not saying that these guys are not talented enough to do that. We both know that McDavid and Draisaitl are able to score 2-3 goals on any given night. But yeah, it's the goaltending as well. I mean, it doesn't matter how many goals you score. If McDavid and Draisaitl score 5 goals, it doesn't matter if your goaltender gives up 6. We've seen it in some of the games. If you just look at the month of December, they lost 4-3 to Seattle.
Ouch.
Come on. I think we could both agree that Seattle is just, they're not a good, they're probably the worst team in the NHL. One of the worst, next to Arizona and Ottawa. Whereas I would probably give Ottawa maybe a little bit more of a bump, just because at least you see effort and energy with the Seattle team. This team is just in complete disarray. So if that loss shows you anything about what kind of team we see Edmonton as, because you beat Pittsburgh, who is on the up and up, even without Crosby and Malkin really, on a nightly basis. And then you lose 4-3 like that. And then you completely just swirly the Kings the next night. It's a Jekyll and Hyde team. And that's not the kind of thing you want. And I agree with you. It comes down to goaltending. And I think regardless of what they're going to be able to do in terms of game plan wise over this break, there's still roster spots that are huge holes that you need to fill. And I don't know how you could do that, especially during this season with the way the cap is.
Yeah. I mean, I know the parity in the NHL is unmatched in any other sport.
Yeah.
But when you have the planet's best player and 2 of the top 3 or 4 players in the league on one team, you shouldn't be there's teams that you just should not lose to. Parity be damned. And Edmonton should not be losing to Seattle when you have Connor McDavid, who can just take over games. That just, losses like that are inexcusable. So yeah, that's stuff that they have to fix. A couple other teams I want to get to, but first we're going to hear from Bet Online. And Bet Online's got you covered this holiday season with more prop bets, odds, and lines than ever before. The football season continues to march towards the playoffs, and college bowl season is here. You get up for the bowl season next day?
You might see a couple of features on the college bowl season.
Okay. All right. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all these sports action this season. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus from basketball, football, the NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports, so don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available. It's betonline.ag, where the game starts. All right, a couple more teams want to kind of touch on. One of them is Calgary. Calgary, is your kitten joining us in this segment?
My neighbor's cat.
Your neighbor's cat. Does your neighbor's cat come over to your apartment and kind of just chill?
The windows are like this close.
They don't use good padding in the walls over in that building.
It's those old New York City buildings.
Gotta love it.
Built with popsicle sticks.
Calgary, kind of one of those teams that was on a roll, scoring at will. But they're scoring. I mean, they're still plus 25, believe it or not, in the point differential. And they're because their defense is so good, but their offense seems to has not, I want to say stalled a little bit. Let me check their schedule in the past few games. But what do they? I mean, they were a team that was maybe the hottest team in the league for a little while, and now they've gone into this pause, losing 4 in a row. Is this, where do they fall into what to expect of when they come out of this break?
I think they're gonna be fine. I mean, you look on Hockey Reference right now. I'm looking as we speak. Just look at their injury list right now. Obviously, this is pretty much all COVID. So 21 quote unquote injuries right now. It's either COVID-19 or COVID-19 protocol or health and safety protocol. The only player who's legitimately injured is Brett Ritchie right now. So that just shows you, obviously this team, it wasn't like this all season long, but at the same time, with especially with how strict things are up in Canada, you'll have players missing a lot more games than maybe what you've seen down here in the United States. So there's that, and it's something like that where it just throws a team off line like that. And I think that's what it comes down to. I think they're going to be fine. In the brief amount of games that I've seen them play, they've played high level teams very tough. Even though they've lost, they played Vegas pretty close. They played Carolina pretty close, even Boston pretty close. So I'm not worried. I think they're going to be fine coming out of the break. And I believe that they will be facing up against our guys from Edmonton as the first game that on the 27th.
How many do they have on the COVID list right now?
20 players.
Oh, I thought it was 16. So they just keep adding them.
They just added 3 more as I was saying that sentence.
So, I mean, that is the quintessential team that needs this break to get guys back. And I mean, I think it might take them, a couple games to really get back into the flow. But I think you should expect to see what you were seeing before it all just fell apart for them with all these guys going on the COVID list. There was another team I wanted to bring up. I know Detroit was another team. I don't know what to make of Detroit. Like, I was hot on them I just feel like they're a young team, obviously, and I think you're just going to get these ups and downs with them. So kind of like how you were saying with the Rangers. The Rangers are a young team. How is this break going to affect them coming out of it? I think the same question needs to be asked about Detroit, because they can be a hot and cold team. And what I saw when they played Colorado was a team that looked lost. And I think that's what you're going to get with a young team. There's a lot of growing pains to be had, but that's stuff that they can all learn from. Where do you see Detroit going coming out of this thing?
Well, I might be a little biased because they are in the same division as Tampa, but I don't know how they played against your Avalanche. Obviously, you just said that they were lost, but
not good.
I could say, I got to attest that they play the top tier teams very, very hard. And that's something that you love to see from a young team, regardless of whether or not it results in wins or losses. But I think they'll sneak into the playoffs. I think they just have to play 500 hockey for the rest of the year, just because Boston is just, they're a Jekyll and Hyde team. You don't know what kind of team you're going to get out they're on the ice on any given night. And then obviously Buffalo, Ottawa, and Montreal aren't exactly going to be contending for that last playoff spot in the division. And just with the way Toronto is, they had Mitch Marner on IR going into this whole pause. And even with Tampa, like I stated before, I think that, Tampa is the kind of team where, they need to play to be successful. They can't just get off the couch and really just play great hockey. So Detroit's a team that we might see them finish a little bit higher than what we expected. It's just a matter of them going out there and do all the things right.
Not happy. Kitty is not happy with
he's listening to the show next door and he's not happy about it.
He is not agreeing with the Red Wings take. They're interesting because right now they're holding a wild card spot with 33 points. They are 6 points behind the number 1 wild card spot in the Penguins. So it's like the Penguins are separated, separating themselves from the other wild card spot. But here's the thing, Detroit might have that second wild card spot with 33 points. Boston's behind them with 30, but Boston has 5 games in hand over the Red Wings. And that's where this season just gets so crazy because teams are slotted in where they are right now, but not everybody's equal. It's not just 1 or 2 games in hand. It's 5.
Yeah.
You can't ignore that. Normally you can just be like, oh yeah, it's a game or 2. Sure, that means something, but 5 games is a lot. And I agree with you. I'm not big on Boston at all. I don't think that means anything for Boston. Even though Boston has 5 games on hand on the Red Wings and they're only 3 points back from them, I don't think Boston. I think Boston's going to continue to struggle as this season goes on. I
just think their goaltending situation is it's a mess right now. I think they're in the same boat as Edmonton. If you get a goaltender out there that's maybe a little bit higher than mediocre, I think we could place Boston in a whole nother category. But right now they're just physical. They just and that's pretty much it. They just wear you down into submission, and that's all they could do right now.
Yeah. And maybe one more, Anaheim. I think everybody's watching Anaheim saying when are they going to fall? When are they going to fall like Buffalo did? Buffalo got a couple wins to start the season. Nobody really expected that to last. It hasn't. Anaheim keeps hanging on and they're up there. They are, they're tied with Vegas right now at 40 points to top the Pacific. I don't see it lasting where they're going to be at the top, but I think they can hang on. They've gone this far in the league where now they're playing with house money, and the way that the NHL season works out, I think they can make it. I think they can make it to the finish line and nab a playoff spot.
I mean, I don't know how you can't. I'm iffy on them because obviously a lot of the hype surrounding Anaheim is Trevor Zegras. So, and obviously Gibson's having an incredible season. So, you can't count them out. But at the same time, it just goes back to kind of like what we touched upon earlier in the episode, is that I'm just waiting for these top level teams in the West to wake up. York, Colorado, Edmonton, Winnipeg. I'm just waiting for those teams to get their ducks in a row, no pun intended, and see how Anaheim can adjust to that. Because once the monsters wake up in the West, is this young Anaheim team going to be able to deal with that? Are they going to be able to support Gibson? Is Zegras still going to be playing like the human highlight film? So we'll have to wait and see. It's one of those things that's so frustrating because look at Calgary. Like we were talking Calgary before, 28 games played, as opposed to Vegas and Anaheim both at 32. So you never know what's going to happen with that, and it's frustrating because of, especially with young players and on a team like Anaheim where games get canceled, moved here, moved there, and really it's hard to get a gauge on a team like that and see what kind of temperature this team is going to be bringing to the arena, especially when we get things rolling. So really, I'm not sold. We've said it before. What you see in January and especially early February is what you get. And maybe now we might have to push that to late February. And by then it might be a little too late for some teams.
I know. So, I mean, then there's so many teams to watch. Like, what are you going to get from the Sharks? They're just an up and down team. The Stars are an up and down team. What's Winnipeg going to look like? With brand new coach, coach just left them. How are they going to respond to that? St. Louis, St. Louis is a team that they've been playing pretty well, but they're kind of up and down at points during the season. Ottawa's playing good hockey, and they're not they're not a team that's going to really compete for a playoff spot. You wouldn't think, but are they just going to keep improving? And does this hurt them? Because they were playing pretty well. What was their last 10? Where were they? I'm trying to find what their last 10 was, but I mean, they lost 2 in a row, 5-4-1 in their last 10. That's good for them.
Yeah,
that's a positive for them. And then obviously, like the Islanders, the Devils are free falling. You can't just say going into the pause, this team was doing whatever, well or poor, and expect that to be the case coming out of it.
Yeah,
it's almost like the season is starting over again in so many ways. So a lot of teams to really kind of look at and see how they do when this thing starts back up again. Hopefully when it starts back up again.
Yeah, hopefully. And hopefully it stays started back up again. I think the game plan for a lot of these teams, just to end it, is just munch points. Don't just go out there and get points. That's all that matters.
Yep. I hear you. All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up. We'll see. We probably won't have a power ranking for next week either, because we'll have to get a solid week of games in if we can do that, and then we'll restart the power rankings. But we'll be back next Thursday. Who knows what we'll be talking about, but we'll be here and talk about something. But that's going to be it. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. He is Mr. Mixtape, Adam Denker from Locked On Lightning. I'm Chris Maselli from Locked On Avalanche. And it's the Locked On NHL podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.